Hi everyone, welcome all to joining the webinar on literary devices to improve prose, pace and flow. My name is Ravali and I'm a part of team here at Turito. I'm joined here by today's speaker, Mr. Poonam Singh, one of the star tutor at Turito, and Miss Priyanka from Student Counselor Department. This webinar is an outreach program by Turito for students to develop their learning skills and for parents who are willing to give their children best education. Before we start off, let me give a quick overview of organization. And you all aware, Turito is an e-learning platform and our vision is to provide quality education to every student by well-experienced faculty. Currently, Turito is available in USA, Canada, Middle East, India, Singapore and Australia regions, and programs offered by Turito are NAPLAN OC and one-on-one tutoring services for Math, Science, English subjects in Australia region. Turito exclusives are Turito offers interactive learning methods for students as per their requirements, regular assessments to track the child progress, and also doubt clarification sessions for making their concepts stronger. Turito also provides parent app access to make you a part of child's learning journey. Moreover, we have top 2% certified educators whom we partnered with to envision our vision. Before getting into the specific, let me offer a quick intro about our speaker. Mr. Poonam Singh is a holder of PhD in Literature and Languages, and she is passionate educator with a vast experience of 8 years in education industry. She has facilitated students for competitive exams and extemporary spoken English. And all the participants who have joined the webinar, please feel free to drop your questions at Q&A section. We'll be having Q&A session before ending the webinar. We shall be answering all the queries during Q&A session. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Ravali. And it's always been a wonderful time taking sessions for any particular topic, for example, which helps us, the students, to explore and advance their writing skills. So when it comes to literary devices, the topic that we have today is, we always try to specify the difference in speaking, and we never get the answer to that. Right, so because we never understood, we never have put in such an impression, or you could say emphasis on, change the structure of the sentences. This is what we are going to do with the literary devices. So literal sentence and literary devices are two different things. When I say something like in general means sharing about my expression or my experience, I use literal language. How is literary device add on to, you can say the beauty of the sentence there, or my expression is we called as literary devices. Literary devices always help us to not only listen to what the instruction is, what the information is, it helps us to explore that by evoking or provoking our five senses. So literary devices is more of showing instead of telling. It gives us the impression of wings to imagine the things in a different way. So instead of just saying, I am happy, I could say I'm on the blue moon, or I'm on the ninth sky. So this will definitely change my impression and expression. And how am I going to be better English speaker? By using these idioms, by using literary devices, by proverbs. So when it comes to what are we going to talk about in this session is what about the literary devices are, the different kinds, how they correspond our ideas, and how can we use correct, it means these literary devices in our writing. And literary devices is used in all forms of writing skills. It's not only constrained in just narratives. It can be written in all paragraphs, essays also, depending on the way of the structure that we are using. So let's proceed to talk about what are literary devices. So literary devices are also, you can say poetic devices are a form of literary device. That's again, it's something. But people are quite confused with literary devices and poetic devices. So let's make it too clear. Literary devices is any device that can be used in paragraph or in sentence formation. Poetic is only used in poetic devices or in poem forms. So they are absolutely interrelated to each other. We cannot say that they're different, but yes, their usage at times may differ. So poetic device is mainstreamingly, if we talk about other devices that we generally use in our poems, like alliteration, we might have heard, assonance, we might have heard, to give a basic information in a better way. And when it comes to literary devices, they can also be used in any particular form of writing. So we can say they are interrelated here as well. So poems are created out of poetic devices, compositions of structural, grammatical, rhythmic, metrical, verbal, and visual elements. Now, how they are going to help us? We at times have heard songs, and we let those songs remembered by our heart and by our brain because of their lexical, their rhythmic tone, and because of the repetition of certain words, which is quite difficult in remembering or to learn any kind of writing task. So now, when we talk about poetic devices, they always give us a better understanding of changing our, you can say, expressions, thoughts, ideas into writing. And they are essential tool that a poet uses to create rhythm, enhances the poem's meanings, and intensify a mood or feelings. It's not only, we always get connected with poems very easily. We always try imagining whenever there is a poem where we read in the book, but that generally doesn't happen with with the proses very often. It will take time because we need too much of descriptions. So both of writing pattern in terms of paragraphs, essays, and narratives have a different strategic usage as far as poems are concerned. So as we have understood about literary devices, they can not only constrained for poems, they also been used for writing in narratives, which we don't use at times in our conscious mind because we are not generally aware, and we misconcept that these are only poetic devices and can be only used in poems. So this is what we have to make change, and we have to understand before writing any task or before writing any narrative. If we'll use these literary devices, definitely we will be able to make that writing task better. Yes, Ravili ma'am, you may move on to the next part. Let's talk about the categorization. So idiom, the most important one that we generally use, but very rare. Like it's difficult to bell the cat ring. So here, I'm trying to say that it's very difficult to get into the situation or to get the solution for that, and who is going to do it. Instead of that, if I just use an idiom, my purpose is going to be sorted. That is what the beauty of these literary devices when we use them. Hyperbole. I'm coming in a second. And generally, we don't come in a second, to be very precise. It's just an expression. It means we're trying to say that we are trying, I'm going to be too quick to be present after a moment. But what do? We use hyperbole there without even knowing that we're using it. And metaphor, that's the most important, poetic device or a literary device we generally use to compare. We do comparison now and then. As and when we do comparison, we use metaphor or simile, irrespective of the fact that we know the terms by heart. We still use them. He is as good as me. That's a metaphor. Or it's here is going to be used as a simile. He is like a lion. Again, simile. He is a lion of my class, or he is the lion in the office. So it means I'm trying to say that he is not a lion. He has the skill, the agility, the power as if the lion has. So here I'm doing a comparison, but in a different way. This usage of literary devices in my general conversation makes it too different and so vivid and colorful and strong in impressions that the other person is going to think about, like, okay, am I taking certain classes for spoken English, or is it something that I'm keep on practicing about? It's just the minimal addition to my understanding or to my concepts, that is literary devices. And then once we start using them, it's not just these three that we are looking at the screen. There are so many. Alliteration is there. There is personification. There is simile, I've just told, juxtaposition, synecdoche. There are so many that we haven't even heard about. But yes, their importance in writing skills and in reading part is very important. And also the most important part is in spoken English, because if we can come to the practice of it, we will definitely be able to write that in our expressions. So moving on to the next part of the literary devices. How are these useful? Absolutely. How are we going to say like they are going to be useful in my writing skills? So poetry can be follow a strict structure, as we are aware. There are certain poetry that can be only followed a specific structure. Like if I could say, if I could talk about sonnet, if I could talk about haiku, there are multiple more. So in these, even limericks, they have specific pattern. So in that specific pattern, I have to when I have to make an impression too strong, I have to make the reader understand what I'm trying to convey there. I have to use poetic devices. None other than I cannot express my things in a broader way. I cannot write sentences. When I just give you an example of haiku, it is a poem of 3 lines, having 5, 7, 5 syllables in 3 lines. Now I cannot write a sentence of 5 syllables. I have to come up with a poetic devices that can summarize my idea of that topic, of that particular concept. So these are very important in usage, in making the use in not only poems, but also in writing. Poetic devices are tools that a poet can use to create rhythm, enhance the poem's meaning, and intensify the mood or feeling. When I say cats and dogs are flying in the sky, that doesn't mean that they're generally flying. It means I have seen something or you can say something which is impossible, something that I cannot express in a simple sentence, that I have seen that it will take little more expression, like 2-3 sentences to come up to share the same expression. But if my certain simple idiom could be used there, I will be sorted with my you can say the feeling there. These devices help piece of foam together, much like a hammer and nails join planks of wood together. That's absolutely a wood. Again, when I say here, I'm comparing hammer and nails with the devices, the tools. So I'm again using a poetic device or a literary device there. So I have compared my devices with a hammer and nails. So this is the beauty of using these poetic devices in our general life, in our day-to-day conversations. Moving on to the next part. What is the correct usage? So understanding the theme of the devices is the most important part. Where am I supposed to use hyperbole if I'm giving an exaggeration to certain points? Where am I supposed to use personification if I am trying to give any non-living thing an impression of human traits? Like the kite was flying up in the sky with a strong wind. But I know kite cannot, okay. Or if I could say the kite was running in the with the speed of 200 miles per hour. So here I'm giving a human trait to a kite, that it is running. The tree was talking to the other, so tree cannot talk. So when we give certain expressions, human traits, that's personification. So we should understand, we have to understand the theme and the important usage of those particular poetic devices. Unlike I have just explained in a few back slides, like how simile and metaphor are quite similar. Simile and metaphor are just different with 2 words. Like, for example, if I say, what is simile? Simile is the comparison of 2 unlike objects, but with the help of as or like. So when I say, I am like a giant monster. So here I'm using a simile. I am a monster. It's a metaphor. So I have to understand what I want from my expression, and the correct theme will define my usage, and on the basis of which I'll come up with correct annotation of or addition of those points into my writing. So the most important part of using this in creative writing is to understand their theme. Now, few illustration as I was discussing about, right? So imagery that I haven't talked about. Imagery is something that gives an imagination or a sense of when we speak up something and you start imagining. For example, I saw a boy running in the down field and he was bammed with the door with an iron pole. Now I could imagine the boy was running towards the downfield and bumped himself into an iron pole and specifying certain things. So the words which helped me with sensory images, as we all are aware of 5 sensory images, then it creates imagery. So usage of figurative language to create visual representations of actions, objects, and ideas. We call that as imagery. For example, the room was drab and dark. Now, yeah, here D and D again is one more poetic device that I'm using. Though I am describing about imagery, that what kind of a room I had, it was dark. So I could start imagining darkness in my mind. So that is imagery. But if I come up with one more poetic device, which I'm using in the same sentences, repetition, or you can alliteration, you can say here. Because in alliteration, we have used the repetition of the first alphabet of a consonant. So D, D has been repeated. So here, alliteration is used along with imagery. So we never know how many times we use these constantly, unconsciously. Then comes up with simile and metaphor. Comparison of two distinct objects to draw similarity between them. My love is like a thorny rose. So here I'm using simile, not a metaphor, because I have used a word like, which is not used in metaphor. Hyperbole, that is a deliberate exaggeration of actions and ideas of the sake of emphasis. Your bag weighs a ton. Now, of course, we cannot lift a ton, right? But yes, it's too heavy that someone complains about it by saying that your bag weighs a ton. So we are exaggerating the fact how, what kind of, or how, how many kilos of bag I'm carrying. So exaggeration, and that always happens unconsciously. We always do that generally in speaking, but we are not aware of. And there are certain more, and they are so amazing, beautiful poetic devices or literary devices that we have that we haven't even heard of. So moving on to the next part, how Turito will help you to become an expert in using literary devices. That's the most important part, right? So we are going to give an inspiration and recommendation on the best literary books. We'll be letting you know about the guidance on the study and the practice writing as per your interest and genre. We will not put you cram these. We will make you understand them by their usages, by your practical life. Analysis of gap areas and ways to address them. Because at times we get confused. So it's not like we are going to give you a PDF where will you be reading it up, and once after looking at that, you won't be able to understand. One poetic device with multiple usage can be taught. One particular poetic device can be also make understand how it is different from others and why it is different from others. Availability of tutors, absolutely there with expertise in the literary devices. Every tutor here has an expertise teaching you the literary devices according to the usage, according to your level of understanding. It's not we treat everyone that every size fits everyone. No, each size fits everyone. No, it's all upon your learning power, your understanding skill, and on the basis of which we will be customizing classes, and the literary devices will be taught accordingly. Why learn English with us? That is something that we always promote. One should come and test, because if I could just simplify, tell that why are we here and why only Turito, there are multiple platforms where we can get these lessons. At times we have lectures, at times we have pre-recorded videos, but here we have live sessions, one-on-one sessions, which is not available. If there is available as well, they have only the constraints of completing the curriculum or completing the worksheets, which is not going to be happened here. We are not going to do that way. If, for example, the student is not understanding the concept poetic devices in just one form that has been given as a task, we will make sure to let the child understand unless and until all the points, all the subtopics, all the sub-poetic devices would be clear. With the rigorous practice, with the practical knowledge, with theoretical understanding, and of course, with a lot of examples. So one-on-one session is absolutely hybrid. It's absolutely customized on the basis of child's understanding. It's all depends on how well child is grasping those concepts. So here we believe in child-centric preparation, minus the traditional one size fits all. So we don't at all, we never, like if I'm teaching a student a strategy in poetic devices, understanding the difference between metaphor and simile, and the child is able to understand at the very instant time. So I will not be giving him exactly the same rigorous training, rigorous worksheets or you can say explanation on the same. I will move on to come up to those difficult parts which he is getting difficulty in. But for the other student, let's say B, if he is not even understanding the term poetic device, first of all, the most important part is to make him through with that particular term. The difference between literal and literary devices. Literal meaning and literary meaning, both are different. Literal is direct, literary is not. So that is what we try to come up all the time. Here we'll try to teach children mindful instead of a handful learning. Whatever is there in terms of concept, the topic, we are not emphasizing on that. We are emphasizing what child is getting back, taking after the session. That is the most important part. If after 60 minutes of session, my child is understanding the amazing difference between simile and metaphor, that is what my purpose is. I don't want my child to go ahead with 20 things and cram them. I want him to throw with thorough with those 2 points which I have discussed. And when I ask the child again to use them, he would be able to. Like, for example, if I'm talking about the writing skills in terms of haiku, sonnets, children yet in grade 10 and 9, or maybe you can say higher graders, they don't know the difference between sonnet and haiku. Even they cannot even explain what are sonnets, who introduced them. So this is something that we always put an emphasis on. Clear concept from the ground level. If for example, the student is in grade 10, and he might have never got the difference between literal and literary. So instead of teaching them the literary devices, we can come to the ground level first of all. And these sessions are all on the basis on the child-centric areas. So they will be live, they will be interactive small group sessions, which we always promote. We always try that children can get what they want instead of the things that they cram or they can mug up. So we always try to come up with interactive sessions. The child could come up with their errors, their problems. Should not be one teacher who is teaching constantly. It's most importantly focus on the child. What is he learning? What is he grasping out of the concept? Now we make you exam prepared absolutely by giving you comprehensive materials, by giving you at times personalized materials as well, depending on the child's requirement. Each and every tutor is, you can say, obliged to give the student the required material as per the child's requirement, not as per the things which are already there. If, for example, a comprehensive material is quite difficult for the child to understand and to get a hold on, we will make it easier. We will make that easier on the basis of the child's understanding level. And we also always target on NAPLAN and OCs, and we come up with collaborative teaching of the concepts. We always put an emphasis on all 4 areas, that is reading, writing, listening, and grammar part, as if we are aware how important the grammar portion is, which have always been overlooked. So the perfect knowledge of grammar concepts dealing with the topic that we are going ahead, like for example, essays. So what are all points in grammar concepts do I require in essay writing? We will deal with that. Now let's discuss. If you have any questions.
Thank you, ma'am, for detailed overview about today's topic. And we got some questions from participants, ma'am. And the first question is, how important is it to know how to use these literary devices?
It is absolutely important to be very precise. Why? Because if you really want yourself to be advanced, yes, it is very important. It's like putting a sugar in a tea. So I could say it's absolutely important to know about them.
Yeah, ma'am. The next question is how literary techniques and devices help in creating an impressive fictional text?
Yes, because when we talk about literal language always gives information. But when we talk about advanced writing, when we talk about impression of the expression, that only comes with the literary devices. If I just simply write without using adjectives, I went to the market. That doesn't make any impression. I went to the market. It was filled with chaos. Everywhere I could see the people hoarding up. Now I'm adding on to certain information that gives in terms of adjectives, that would be in terms of literary forms. So we are not telling here we have to advance it, like why we might have read the books, stories, novels, how they're different from our writing skills. They are different because they have used literary devices. They have understood the difference between giving an information and expressing the facts or expressing your ideas. So there is an important difference. Like, for example, if you meet the person the very first time and just greet him, yes, hi. And instead, if you ask, hi, how are you doing? There is a difference in both of the expressions, right? So it is absolutely similar to what giving a life to your feelings, your expressions. So it's equally important there too.
Yeah, the next question is how do literary devices convey theme?
Can you come again, Ravili?
How do literary devices convey theme?
Convey thing, yes, that depends on the theme. Like, for example, if I'm getting bored, there are certain idioms that can be used. There are certain expression that I can use at time, and generally, to be very precise, we do use them unconsciously. We never know that we are using it, but we have to make a hold. We have to take a hold of that particular thing to understand it better and to use it in our daily lives. That will definitely help us. You must have seen also a very few English speakers are good speakers, because at times children or people use the simple language. They give information. But at times you must have seen people narrate their expressions. They get a hold of each and every point to be shared with the people, whatever they felt. So that is the difference between sharing. So when I talk about using it in a day-to-day life and in my practicality, yes, that's absolutely going to make a huge difference in this usual speaking and the advanced speaking.
Yeah, ma'am. Next question is can you suggest any books to improve writing?
We will suggest improved writing. We will suggest, but there are certain areas which we have to take on first of all before getting into the books, because if children would not aware of those particular grammar concepts, we cannot be able to prescribe books because children still cannot understand those books. So how we can be using adjectives, how are we going to use other grammar topics, unless and until we can make the child understand that, there is no use of prescribing books. It's again going to be a theoretical information given to a child who has no knowledge of understanding and the theme or the usage of that particular concept. So,
ma'am, next question. Will I be at a disadvantage if I don't use these literary devices in my essay?
I would definitely say yes. Definitely, if there are two children who are writing essays and one is using literary devices, definitely the impression is going to be stronger, or you can say heavier on the other side, the person who is using literary devices, because I could be able to sensitize myself with the impressions or with the feelings and the expression the person is sharing in his context, in his essay. So yes.
Yeah, ma'am. Next question. How can literary devices help you enhance your creativity and vocabulary in using English language?
Absolutely correct. Like, for example, we might have seen everyone using the similar way, but only few can come up with generalized, hyper, you can say, advanced English skills, because we generally are not aware how to use them. We are on the seventh moon, but we don't know we are like when I talk about these things, these expressions, they add on certain extraordinary ideas. They take us to not the generalized form, they take us to a different impression, the expressions. So that is why we keep on from the very first moment saying that literary devices are equally important as if we are putting sugar into a tea.
Yeah, ma'am. The next question is what are literary techniques and the difference between a literary device and a literary technique?
There are so many. To be very precise, there are so many. We also have to understand meters. We have also have to understand syllables. We have to understand then the poetic devices. So I cannot say there are 2, 4, 5. There are more than 30 or 40. And on the basis of their usage, we use them. Like, for example, if I just give you one expression, juxtaposition. This is something we all are into our lives, but we don't know we are using and talking about them. Let's say I'm into the present scenario and I am still in my past. I'm not getting over my past. That is juxtaposition. I am using it. Whenever we usually talk, my days were wonderful. I still can feel that hold of that person. I am using juxtaposition without knowing that I'm using it. So that is one example for the question.
Yeah, ma'am. Next question is, will reading books help in improve writing?
Yes, for sure. Yes, absolutely.
Next question is for Priyanka, ma'am. How many classes do we get per week?
Per week, ma'am, it's all depend on you, your availability and child's availability as well, because these are additional and advanced learning for the student. So it's all, though we suggest 2 classes at least, so that we can come up with one class with the concept and the other for the practice, and vice versa, whichever way. If the child requires more of understanding of the concepts, we go on for 2 lessons and then come up to the third for the practice. So minimum 2 classes we prescribe all the time.
Yeah, ma'am. Next question. How can I get more information regarding these classes?
Our team will definitely contact you afterwards, and will brief you out of entire structure, the theme, the purpose, and the courses that we have. Everything could be shared with you.
Next, can we take a trial class?
Yes, for sure. Demo classes are available. And definitely once you get your details give to the other person, to our concerned academic counselors, they will definitely provide you a demo.
As of now, there are no questions, ma'am. And let's end the session, ma'am. We'll be ending the session now. We'll be having a webinar on next coming week as well. We hope to see you all again. Until then, if you have any queries, please write to us at care@turito.com. For more info, please visit our website www.turito.com for better learning, better results. Join Turito. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you, ma'am.
So much. Thank you, Ravali. Thank you, everyone, for being wonderful, patient listeners. Thank you so much. Keep on learning.